Chester. I'm gonna get interrupted by a movie screen. You want to go ahead with Chester now, John? I think we'll move right into our discussion with Chester.
Yeah.
All right. We have the Chester Board of Selectmen with us. And the Chief of Police. And I guess that's the reason for this is to discuss our joint police department. Mr. Baldessaro, will you want to open things?
Sure, we can do that. First of all, thanks for hosting us. We appreciate it. And you guys are welcome to come see us next time, but that's okay. I just wanted to say from my personal perspective, and the other board members can comment, that I think that this is one of the most successful joint venture projects that has been undertaken anywhere, frankly. I think this went almost seamlessly, and I haven't had anything but high praise from the amount of work that's being done and the interaction with the public citizens. So I, for one, want to thank you for the good work, and we want to keep moving forward in the same direction.
Anyone else want to comment? I agree that you're doing a hell of a good job.
Thank you.
But now we have something that we've got to address right here. And I would like you to give us a little bit of information on it as you see it.
Absolutely. I don't know, first we can start. I was told this was also going to be my 6-month review. So I had printed up, so I've been keeping track of the things that I have been doing within the department. And I wanted to hand that out if I could.
Sure.
And then we can discuss that, and then we can get into the nitty gritties for the email that I sent out. If I can get out of my chair. Nope.
I'd say it a word.
I only have so many. I didn't know that we were gonna have, you guys weren't here, because Kara's not here. Yep.
You go.
Oh, all right, you handed one off. I'll pick that one back here. And so I just broke this up into categories, as you can see, some of the things that I've been doing over the last 6 months. I don't know if anyone has any questions on this as you guys are looking it over, but I've been pretty busy. Which will parlay into the email that I sent out to the boards on Saturday. There hasn't been a lot of time for patrol for myself. Because there was a lot of things that needed to be upgraded, changed out, and brought up to date. And that's what I've been spending the last 6 months on, and probably the next 6 months. But I've been running basically since I've gotten the position of chief. I ran with 2 officers, basically for 4 out of the 6 months. In June, I hired a 3rd officer. And she was cleared to be on her own right around the time that Sergeant O'Brien retired, which then put me back at 2 officers. So essentially, other than the training hours for Officer Kate Perzo, I've had 2 officers. I now have 4. I'm hoping by the end of this month that they will be trained and able to go out on their own. They both have considerable police experience. So it's a matter of them learning our roads and how we navigate the police world. I've also been purchasing some ammo for all the firearms people out there. We know that firearms and ammo are a shortage. It's the same with law enforcement. It's hard to come by. So I've been trying to get that up to date. I only had about 4 boxes of practice pistol ammo when I started. We have much more than that now. Due to the police reform, we had to upload all of our trainings that we've done, especially over the last year, into a CADIS. I had to do that for each of my officers. And it was a massive amount of work. Anything that wasn't done through the MPTC had to be scanned in, the certificate scanned in and entered for each of my officers. I was the only one that could do that as an administrator. So that was hours upon hours in June to make sure that all the records were in and up to date by June 30th, or there was a possibility that our officers wouldn't be able to recertify and continue to work as a police officer. Thankfully, everyone got in and recertified. There were unused portable radios in both departments, Chester and Blanford. And I was able to give those to the respective fire departments in each town, which both fire chiefs were quite ecstatic about. I think I gave Chester 6 portable radios with spare batteries and chargers. And the Blanford fire chief, I was able to give him 10 unused radios with batteries and chargers, which supplemented them and then further helped them not have to purchase. They were all in working order. But what had happened is we went to the dual band radios, so we were no longer using the radios that the fire departments use, which I believe is a single band. So that was one thing that I had done. Blanford, we held a successful drug take back in April. Margaret had come to me, our council on aging, saying, I'd really love to do this. We've been trying for several years and it hasn't come through. So we were able to hold the event and we collected 49 pounds of unwanted medication, and that is going to be, it was destroyed and wasn't out in our water sources and our, kids and on the street. I'm also have been able to obtain a permanent kiosk, to take that kiosk for the Blanford Police Department, which I'm hoping should be here sometime this month. So that'll be a positive for the Blanford residents. And the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. Is there any questions or comments?
Yeah, Tammy, can you talk a little bit about, I know this is a very unusual time with this police reform that's gone through, and I know that you're spending an awful lot of time on policies and procedures and having to update that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I took over, we had approximately in the department about 6 policies that were cookie cutter from the Mass Chiefs of Police. What I've done is reached out to Chief Jen Gunderson from South Hadley Police. She's working on getting her department accredited. So I know that her policies are up to date and where they need to be. So I've obtained her policies and are rewriting them to fit the Chester Blanford department. And I'm working on that. I have currently, I believe, 5 policies out because they take an enormous amount of time to read and reread. My use of force policy alone is 29 pages. So working on getting that in place with the reform bill. Policies have wording added or deleted depending on the policy. It's been crazy. There's been a lot of chief meetings that I attend monthly between the Western Mass Chiefs of Police and the Mass Chiefs of Police. We're all trying to figure out what's going to happen with the police reform and what's going to be happening with this so-called Bridge Academy. And for you that don't know, the Bridge Academy, Massachusetts is going to a post-police academy, which is essentially a full-time police academy currently in Mass. Prior to July 1, we had 2 academies. We had a part-time reserve academy that would allow officers to work part-time. Once they became full-time, they'd have to obtain a full-time police academy status. There's talk, and we're hoping that they're going to accept what we're calling a Bridge Academy that's going to bring our part-time trained officers over to a full-time academy trained certificate and status. The Mass Chiefs of Police and the MPTC, which is our training council for the police academy in Massachusetts, was hoping that it'd be about a 200-hour academy. The latest conversations with the police post commission, which was formed when the police reform went through, was talking about 370 hours. So we're all kind of holding our breaths and waiting to see what's going to happen as these talks continue. I have a meeting coming up another 2 weeks, I think, and hopefully we'll get some more information. So this reform has been and going to be, I think it's going to affect the small towns pretty harshly as far as financially, between paying the salaries of the officers to get trained and also ammunition. They're looking at, I've heard between 1,000 and 1,500 rounds of just pistol ammo. And right now, a case of ammo for me is about $300, I believe. Just for a case of ammo of 1,000 rounds. So that's kind of where we're at with the reform, and that's really, I don't have much more on the reform, because not much more is coming forward.
But it's fair to say then that it's a very uncertain time and we really don't know what's going to happen going forward. And at the very least, there's going to be financial impact on training and equipment costs.
Yes. So on to the email. Does everyone have a copy of that email that I sent out? I made copies.
Yep.
Okay. So I picked this time, I wanted to send this email out to everybody so they'd have time to digest it. Because I know that what I'm asking for is a large sum of money. But I hadn't realized going through the financial process with my first finance budget meeting was 6 days after I was put in as chief. I had no idea about the budget. So it literally was 6 days and I don't know. So, but now having been here 6 months, I have a much better handle on what I think I need and how the budget works. And a lot of my stress and what's keeping me up at night lately is my officer patrol budget. I have 4 officers right now. I would love to hire 1 to 2 more. So we can spread out the work and no one's going to get burned out on me because these officers have full-time jobs. What they do for us is part-time. And as it's listed there, I laid it out. I currently have 32,100 that was given as FY22 officer wages. And I don't know if you guys want me to go into each item, but I laid out the training. In previous years, I know the training budget was about $4,000. It was zeroed out prior to me taking over. And the issue is that to recertify every officer, I need about $4,200 a year for 4, that's for 4 officers, that's for my current officer. And each officer is just going to go up by, they need to have 40 hours of in-service training plus 8 hours of firearms training. They need 2 trainings of firearms a year. One is the qualification where you go out and shoot for score and accuracy. And then another one is either they're going to do low light training and or decision making. You usually alternate those year by year. The firearms training has not been happening. Before last July, the police department had not qualified in 7 years, which is a violation of the training standards in Massachusetts. So these numbers are a bit higher than what you're used to looking at because I'm bringing the department to where it needs to be training wise. There are a couple of officers that work for dual departments. I don't know how it's going to work with the in-service training. Here, I just wrote it out as if my department has to fund this. My intent is to reach out to the other departments that they work for and say, how are we going to do this? Because I don't believe that the Chester Blanford Police Department should have to pay the way all these 40 hours of training, 48 hours of training. And they need to get the same training throughout all their departments. So, but these numbers that are listed in front of you are based on the Chester Blanford Police Department having to pay for the officers. So I had talked about the Bridge Academy this year. They're having officers recertify based on the first letter of their last name. Officer Grislak, because A through H is this year, they have until June 30th of 22 to recertify and take the Bridge Academy. Officer Grislak will have to go through the Bridge Academy this year. And I'm trying to look and see where where I had it in here. So if it's a 200-hour academy, just to pay Officer Grislak's salary is $4,400. If it goes to the 370, it's $8,140. And if it's any number in between, obviously you're smart enough, it's gonna be somewhere in between. I have no idea. Worst case scenario, if it's the $8,000, that's a quarter of my budget. And then right now, with the $32,100 that I have for my patrol budget, that's also my training budget. And if you forget about the training for a minute and you only think about patrol hours, that's with the 32,000, that would allow me 28 hours a week for my officers patrol, or 14 hours per town. Once you start taking out the training hours, the potential $8 grand, $4 to $8 grand for Officer Grislak, and then the training, the 4,200 for the training that is absolutely required. It's the minimum amount. We have to do that to keep these officers certified. Our numbers drop to about, I believe it was, oh, it's right here, it's 23 to 24 hours a week. If there's no other training, which equals about 11 to 12 hours of patrol per town. So I'm asking the department, because for an additional 42,000, the towns for an additional 42,000 for FY 21, the patrol budget was $90,000. I averaged that. Chief Ilnicki worked approximately 12 hours a week, and at $25 an hour, made about 15,600 in a year. That's a guesstimate of what he did, but that's what he told me, is he worked about 12 hours. So that would leave 74,400 in my patrol budget. I understand that when the towns decided to make a full-time chief, they thought they were getting 40 hours of patrol a week from the police chief. That's not happening. I'm averaging 1 to 2 hours a week. Some weeks I'm not out at all. I answer calls. Emergency calls when I'm working are getting answered if I'm in town. I went out today for 45 minutes before this meeting, and I drove around the town of Blanford. But I'm not getting out because of the administrative work, because of the things that I just handed out that I've been working on and doing. And they some of these things take weeks to do. Some of them are pretty easy, but a lot of them are just time consuming. So I don't know if when the towns decided to hire a full-time chief, if they thought I was going to be able to patrol for 36, 40 hours. It's not happening. So what's happening is I'm reading on Facebook and hearing from the towns, from the town people, both Chester and Blanford are upset that they don't see their cruisers and their police chief. I don't respond to that. If someone wants to come to me, I had one woman from Chester come and have a conversation with me, and I was very frank with her. I said, ma'am, for the last 5 months, I've had 2 officers. One works evenings, one works days. If you don't see them, you don't see them, but it was about 2 days a week that I would have coverage, maybe 3. I'm hoping with these 4 officers, I can bring the hours up, but it's only going to allow me, as of right now with my budget, to have one off them each work 1 5-hour shift a week. So that's 4 days of coverage that I'd be able to do. And then with the training, I'm guesstimating that by January or February, I'm going to be out of patrol money. So that means for the remainder of the fiscal year, there'll be no patrols other than me when I have the time. When I had asked for more money in my budget, when I was premature and didn't know what I was doing, I was asked, did crime go up? The answer is no, crime hasn't gone up to my knowledge. And then I was told, well, we had state police. I had a conversation with Trooper last Sunday at an event and asked him, how many towns of state police, the Russell Barracks, which is B5 who backs us up, how many troopers are on at a shift? And he told me 2 and a desk trooper. And then he told me that they cover 11 towns. So relying on state police is a gamble, because if you have a loved one that needs medical attention, if you get a call from your neighbor, hey, somebody's breaking into your house, if there isn't a Chester Blanford police officer on, you could be waiting hours, because if those 2 troopers are tied up somewhere else, they're not coming. Because they can't, because if they're tied up. If they're not tied up, depending on where they are, they might be 45 minutes away from getting to your house or getting to your loved one who's in need. I'm asking for this additional 42,000 to be added to my patrol officer wages, so I can put the officers, our patch, our department on the street and get them out there to better serve the communities and to protect, all of you and get you out. I know it seems like a lot, but I'm asking for the same money that was in the patrol budget last year, minus Chief Ilnicki's pay, which came out. That's all what I'm asking for at this time.
Have you submitted this to the respective finance committees?
I have not. I started with the select boards because I knew that we were having this meeting tonight.
Have you got a submission for the 2 select boards?
My submission was my email. If there's a specific form, I do not.
Well, I didn't see the email, I'm sorry, but
I will.
all I'm trying to do is get it recognized that you're requesting X amount of money from each community to make this up, so that we can talk with our finance and they can talk with theirs.
Right.
And see what we can do with this.
Mhm. So I would say that my email, if it suffices, would be my official request, and I would be asking for approximately 21,000 per town in addition.
So Tammy, just some background here, and that's kind of why I brought up the police reform thing. You had a perfect storm of situations that happened here. We came through COVID, which was a nightmare for everyone, and this police reform thing, I don't think any of us know what the real repercussions are going to be, other than it's been extremely damaging for law enforcement. And I do know that the amount of time that you're spending on this, and you're going to continue to have to spend on this, is astronomical. So I'm not surprised by the patrol hours. And, frankly, when we all met to put this together, I think we knew going in that we were going to have to evaluate this and then probably look at different funding for it. So I'm not surprised by this, and I think your presentation is accurate, and I think it's not out of line. I think it's something that we need to fund. And I've been thinking about it here, and I think that one thing we may be able to do, because some of these costs are going to be one-time costs, because your Bridge Academy training type of things, those are going to be one-time costs. And both Blanford and Chester I know we have ARPA funding coming in that we may be able to look at pulling something out of that we wouldn't have to go to town meeting or tax rate or anything else. So it's something that we could consider, but me personally, I understand where you're coming from, and I support this.
I have a couple questions, if I can. Do you foresee your role being primarily administrative beyond the next 6 months?
My hope is not. I miss being out there on the street patrolling. Absolutely, so I don't want to be tied to the desk. So my hope is in the next 6 months, year, that once I have policies and procedures in place, once we're through and we finally know what's going on with the Bridge Academy and my officers are completely trained in where they need to be, that I'm hoping that is going to settle down. Because right now that's a lot of what I'm doing. But honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because there's day to day, I am going to attempt to get an intern from Westwood State College or University, Westwood State University. I went, it was college, to help me with some of the monotonous stuff that I'm, doing that they could do for me. And it helps them get credits. So I am hoping that, that would help. So my goal is that yes, in 6 to 12 months, that I would be able to patrol, but I don't know.
Yeah, did not know the part. So my only thought is to the next fiscal year budget, right? If we're sitting down here in 6 months and let's say our representatives come through for us and we don't have to do this reform. I know
Yes.
I'm taking a big if there, but
Yeah.
say they come through and we don't have to do it, the Bridge Academy works, it's a minimal amount. And we get through it.
Mhm.
For the next fiscal year, are we going to stick with this additional 42? Plus now you are gonna have additional patrol hours? Is that what the plan is, or would we revisit and hopefully maybe reallocate at that time?
Yeah, my end game in this is to continue to hire officers and to offer more and more coverage for the towns. I have 2 towns that I cover.
Mhm.
And I would love to see down the road, and this is where my aim would be, is to have 2 officers on from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. Obviously, there'd be 2 shifts there, but to cover our town during waking hours. That's my end game. So, yeah, I probably will be asking for the same monies next year, so I can continue to hire officers, so I can continue to offer patrol hours and time.
And that leads into my next question, which is where is the end goal here? You mentioned adequate police services. My question was, what would you determine to be adequate?
Just what I said, I think that the end is my end game, is to have an officer on from 7 AM to 11 PM. 2 shifts, 2 officers a day, 7 days a week.
Trying to do the math, as you said.
Okay.
I'm almost there.
The town of Granville, I talk with Chief Adels often. And he started where we're at, with what, he's one town, but, he's now 7 days a week. An officer works 7 to 3, and 3 to 11. State police only covers the overnight hours, which I think is reasonable here.
Mhm.
So that would be, for me, that's adequate.
Okay.
And that's where I would like to see us going.
And actually, when we did this study, I think those were questions that we asked then too, and that is pretty consistent with the end game that we had discussed is, I think everybody realized the state police are a great agency. They do a great job, but there's not enough of them to cover what we have, and there's not going to be. I mean, that's not going to change. So that's why we took the step in this direction, and I think it's reasonable and, it's well thought out.
And on that note, state police have been attending our chief meetings because they're very nervous with 2 troopers on the street. And as the Bridge Academy happens and starts going into effect, there's officers that are not going to go through the academy. So especially the small hill towns up here, we're going to be losing seasoned, experienced officers. There's police chiefs that are going to have to go through this Bridge Academy. So if they work during the day, they're now going to have to be attending a police academy of some sort. I don't know what it's going to look like, but that's just going to tax our state police further. So, because there's going to be more coverage and more towns that they're going to have to work hard, where normally a chief or an officer would be there, they're not going to be there.
So these training hours are in addition to their detail hours. Is that my understanding?
The detail hours is voluntary, that they, well, not voluntary, but that's.
I think he means patrol hours.
Patrol hours, sorry.
Yes, it's an addition to,
It's in addition to.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, that's the minimum hours that they have to remain certified to be a police officer. And right now, that's coming out of the salaries, the wages line item.
Now, you had mentioned certifications for these officers. Now, once they're certified, what's the timeline between certification and then having to go to be recertified
So we have to recertify every year.
every year?
So Officer Grizzlack, my understanding right now, and that's subject to change, but the way it's always been is that if he goes to the academy this year, he will not have to do the additional 40 hours of what we call in-service training.
Mhm.
The 8 hours of qualification, firearms qualification, he will do because we're going to be doing it either this month or next. So we're already going to have that in place. But the in-service training, he will not have to do, because he'll be getting that at the Bridge Academy. But every year we have to do these hours.
Okay, so like, what does it cost for the recertification of the officers? Like you say every year,
Mhm.
all right, now we're paying for that, or the state pays for it, or now this becomes a cost above what you're slated to.
Right, so the in-service doesn't cost anything per se to do. A lot of it right now is virtual because of COVID. So we're paying their hours that they're doing to do the training. So it's very specific. They'll give you bias training is 3 hours. And then there's a video that's pretty close to 3 hours long that they have to sit and watch, and they take tests and they get certificates. Once they submit those certificates to me, they'll get paid out for the hours.
Yeah, but at some point, like if they reopen the academies and they have to go to the academies, now that's gonna add to the costs, or?
It'll be the same cost. We would just send them to the academy to do the training, but it's gonna be the same amount of hours. And we would still continue to pay them their salary.
These 3 hours in front of a computer, that's beyond my attention.
It's brutal.
So really, it's 40 hours a week per officer, so.
Yeah,
A year, 40 hours a year.
So you're looking at that $888 roughly
Right, yes,
per
right now,
officer.
my officers are getting $22 an hour. So times the
I'm
40.
just trying to get a better understanding of, that.
Mary?
Tammy, the officers that you were speaking of work full-time, right, the Senate for other communities, and part-time for us?
They work full-time, like one of my officers is a teacher, full-time,
Oh, but not a police.
but not a police officer. One of my officers is a full-time police officer for another community. The other 3 are all part-time and have other careers.
So with that one officer who's full-time elsewhere, be able to piggyback the training for both towns?
Yes, so they only have to do the training once, and right now, not sure how that's going to work. I'm planning on having in the next week or two, another department meeting to talk with the officers and then get a feel, especially for her, because she's full-time. I'm assuming her full-time job is going to give her that. This was the worst case, like if we had to pay it all, this is the worst case. The other three Officer Grizzlock only works for us, so the other two that work multiple agencies, my intent is to reach out to their chiefs to see how we're gonna go about doing this, so that we don't have to eat the entire cost of the training, because they have to do it, you know, for them as well.
Thank you.
Well, I think you did a good presentation, and as Tom said, we can now go back and discuss it amongst ourselves and sit with finance and come up with solutions, but I know that it's critical, and as far as I'm concerned, as I said, I support this.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't think so.
The only thing I wanted to bring up quick was I handed out with the letter from Chief, it's the financials. And basically, we have 3 expenses in question that our accountant is working on right now. And it's just a question of whether money had been appropriated, why it wasn't brought over, but that's our. But minus that, currently, we have a $448.38 split between the 2 towns. So that's a good way to run a budget. Bring it right down to almost, it should be right there.
Not bad.
But we have this, like I say, these 3 other that we're
5
working on, and
Could about 5 more.
So if you wanna pull that forward. I will.
this is split 448.38.
That's good.
But all the financials are there. And you can, if anybody has any questions, instead of reading through this right now, because it can be mind-boggling, please email me or Josh, and he can email me, and we'll get the answers for you.
Looks good. Okay. Now, again, I just want to reiterate, when we went through this whole process, we knew that there was going to be difficulties moving forward, and nobody could anticipate COVID and then this ridiculous police reform thing. So Tammy, I appreciate you being as flexible as you have and the work that you're doing, because you're in uncharted water. Nobody has ever seen this before. Nobody has ever done this before. So just trying to keep your head above water and stay with it is not an easy job. So thank you for doing it.
Yes.
All right. Yeah.
I could never be a cop.
I wanted to many times.
So,
We want to discuss something else, right?
right, we were going,
Communication.
right, the communication piece
Okay,
that you had wanted to discuss. On yours,
even though there's missing
half of them.
half of them. So I don't know what day that was, but it was a Sunday evening around 9:30. I got a call from Kathy advising me that the town of Chester was under a state of emergency. And it was during all the rain that we got. And I asked her why. I had no idea. I had not been contacted by anybody. I hadn't been reached out, dispatch had not reached out to me, so I didn't know that we were losing roads. I had no idea. And then I found out later through the days that our highway, obviously Chester Highway had been out, and our members of the fire department had been out. And I was a little disappointed and taken aback that as the police chief that I wasn't notified. And I spoke with the fire chief and I said, why wasn't I notified? I asked Kathy the same thing, and she didn't have an answer, which I wouldn't have expected her to. So I wanted to have both fire chiefs and both highway supers here. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you being here. To have a conversation and say, we're all on the same team. Police, fire, EMS, highway. Our job is public safety. We have different aspects of it, but we all wear the same uniform and have the same job. So I wanted to have a conversation today with the other department heads to say, how can we make the communication work better for the two towns? Josh, in the past, we had some severe storms coming through, sent out a group text that included all the department heads and Kara, the head of the chair, select board. So if anything happened, we knew that we were putting it on that text group, and that everyone that needed to know would instantly be brought up to speed and know what's going on and where and what it is. I was frustrated and disappointed that nobody thought to reach out to the police chief, because what if I had gotten a call from dispatch saying you need to respond to this address for whatever, and I can't get there because I don't know that our roads are washing away. Now, part of that should have been, I should have known. I've been chief for 6 months and out of the department for about 14, and I hadn't heard in the last 14 months of any of our roads washing out. So I wasn't familiar with it. I didn't grow up in Chester. I didn't know the state of our roads. So part of that is my fault. I should have educated myself. But I feel strongly that it was also on the department heads, the fire chief, the highway. Somebody should have notified, send me a text message. This is what's going on. This road is impassable. We have people trapped. They can't get out of their houses. We can't get to them. This road is washing away. We've just lost half the Skyline Trail. Something. So that's why I wanted this meeting to say, what can we do? It can be as simple as a text message group that we can just keep on our phones, that when we know if in a certain town, if something's going down, let's notify. Let's work together. I had told the fire chief in Chester, I said, why didn't you call me? I just hired 2 new officers. I've got a total of 4 myself. We can go grab our cruisers. Now we can provide lights for safety. And it's not above us to put our boots on and a pair of jeans and go out and dig trenches or lay sandbags or do whatever it is, or drag brush out of the road, what have you. We're all on the same team. So that's why I wanted to have this meeting and to reach out and say, let's throw ideas on the table to have better communication. Because in 2021, in my opinion, the police chief shouldn't be being left out of disasters happening in my community.
Mhm. You're right. I think maybe the easiest solution is a text group. I mean, if that's, you've already got one started in Blanford, if you do that, maybe we ought to do the same thing in Chester. Maybe we put it all together so that everybody gets notified.
The other thing too is, I know Chief Motter, fire chief, has been, before COVID happened, and then obviously things got reprioritized, but has been actively working on trying to reactivate emergency preparedness group. I guess we're part of a regional emergency preparedness, and part of that, the responsibility of that group is to put together emergency plans when disasters happen. And there's, you know, a defined set of steps that that are required in order to establish a qualified emergency, you know,
Correct.
preparedness type document, I guess.
Correct.
And he was actively working in that. We learned we were part of a regional group. He was going to re-engage that and start moving in that direction, leverage whatever NEMA consultants there might be to help navigate that. But I think if they help us put together that document, it's more than just having a tangible document. It's about the plan we put in place in between with our community partners to be sure that when these emergencies take place, we already know what to do, like start the text with your department heads or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
It might be just getting Chief Motter back at the table and your fire chief as well and say, hey, can we get rolling on this? And
We actually have, a document. We have an emergency preparedness plan that Richie Small, our fire chief and emergency management director, worked on several years ago with this group that you speak of. So we have it, but I know it's time to be updated. It hasn't been touched in a few years. So
I think
you know, the text message group and all that's not in there, but that whole notification procedure, you should have been notified. You should have been notified by the emergency management director. You absolutely should have been notified. So that should have happened, but we'll have to figure out some steps so that that doesn't happen again,
This
because
is
you're
not
right.
a blame game.
No,
I'm
no,
not
no,
looking to
no,
Call
no,
anybody out. I just. put it
Nobody's
out
blaming
there So
anybody.
we can move forward and
Right.
do it better next time.
Because
Yeah,
you're right.
Any one of us could have done the same. thing.
I could have, I'm thinking about it myself, when we got together and did the state of emergency, we could have very easily,
Yeah, tell Tammy.
yeah.
Let us know, because we're gonna be looking for you.
Yeah. I'll look at my crystal ball and let you know.
There you go.
Yeah.
But, you and I have already talked some, because I gave you my phone and you gave me yours, because during the evening, when something happens here, it's mine until I can get Dave up here from East Hampton. So that's why I keeping the communications open for you.
Absolutely.
That's critical anyway. So that definitely fell through the cracks, and that's, that's on us too. So we need to get that updated. Because like Jason said, when we did the state of emergency, could have easily sent a text out to you too. And I just,
Like I said, it's not a blame game and I'm
No, I
not
know.
blaming Richie or anything, but it's just a more of let's move forward, because there was fear Sunday night. Kathy had said there's a possibility we may have to evacuate Walker Brook.
Yeah.
The campground and
Yeah.
the other one. And I'm like, oh, so I'm now at 9:30, 9:45, I'm sending a text out to my officer saying, is there anybody available? I need bodies. Thinking we may have, I'm gonna need help.
We didn't know.
And
We didn't know.
thankfully, we didn't, and I had one of my officers coming in, and he came in, but it's just one of those things, I can get the ball rolling on my end too.
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We will work on fixing that.
Well, and where Tammy's the center of both communities.
Sure.
That it's, if, whether it's you start the tasks, or even if we have some rain, you go, hey, how's it, everything okay? Just starting the group text to get it going. Because we all know that the state puts out all the weather warnings,
Oh, yeah.
but they don't know for sure who's getting how much rain.
Yeah, they're all guesstimates.
Right, they're all guesstimates, so.
We'll work on that.
Anything else?
I think that's all we wanted to cover, right?
That's it.
Josh, you got anything?
All right, well, perfect. And
Thank you.
we are gonna move on to our, yeah, right? Yeah. Whatever works, we can, I don't mind coming here, but you guys are more than welcome to come to Chester too, and we'll extend our hospitality as well. Thank you, folks.
So you have to adjourn. our
We're gonna
portion,
adjourn
and we're
this
going
meeting,
That way.
and then we're going to,
And I have to start a
reconvene.
whole-
all right,
Stay as long as you guys want.
all right. Hopefully it won't be long. Thank you, folks.
You got cookies and things coming around.
Thank you. sir. I guess it's time to get back where it should have been, huh? I said it's time to get back where it should have been. Well, you wanna-
Oh, no, you're good. Just keep going down the agenda. You got a hearing next.
Yeah, I want to do the hearing and then go back to the previous meeting. We still have, yeah, we can do it at the end.
Already you want to do it. It's your meeting tonight.
All right, we have a hearing from the power company for identical or joint pole locations from N-Star, doing business as Eversource Energy and Verizon New England. We have the plans here. I presume everybody's seen them.
That's my stuff.
I would make a motion to
Sorry.
accept their plan and sign it off.
second for discussion,
All
There
right,
are people from Eversource online if you wanna,
not for the hearing, I think that's for the other stuff, isn't it?
no, it's for the hearing.
For the
Is it?
hearing.
Well, if they want to speak, yeah.
Arthur, are you there with us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, yep, I'm here for Eversource. They hired my company TRC to do the engineering for this, so we're proposing some new poles along the route on North Blandford Road and Gore Road. And also on North Blandford Road, we're proposing to move some of the existing poles because that reduced the overall number of additional poles that we needed. So it's a little bit of a rearranging of the poles along there to create shorter distances between them overall. That's essentially the plan.
Any questions, TJ?
Well, I'm just wondering now, you said you're relocating some of the poles,
Yes,
so otherwise they'll be in different locations along the street.
correct. Yeah, moving up and down the street.
Yeah.
As I understand this, this is to shorten the distance between some of the poles.
That's right. Eversource is planning to put in an additional circuit out of the substation on North Blandford Road. And with the existing distance between the poles, they wouldn't support in the sag between the sag of the wire between the poles at those distances would become an issue. So we're seeking to shorten that up so it can accommodate this other circuit, which is meant to it's to get the circuit that's there now goes through the woods kind of behind the road and it comes back out on Gore. They want to get that so that's not the primary circuit. They want it on the street, which will be a lot more reliable and easier to maintain.
Anything else?
Now, part of this says lay and maintain underground cables and wires. Where's that
Just
action
the
happening?
substation.
Coming directly out of the substation, about 300 feet towards the east along North Blandford Road, that's where the digging would take place for the underground.
Is that going to affect our roads or anything?
Eversource would yeah, there would need to be a traffic detail while they did the work, and Eversource would patch the road wherever they dug it.
You're not going to be digging up the road. You're going to be running alongside the road.
They'll have to cross the road at one point.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, have you discussed this with the highway superintendent and the water commissioner?
I have not had that conversation with the town, no.
Right, because you got a water line to cross there.
Yeah, and they'll be doing surveys and arranging all of that to make sure that there wouldn't be any, in the course of the construction, that would all take place.
Gordon Avery, Water Superintendent, I got a question for you. I went out there with Mass Waterworks and we marked that road out about 5 months ago. We flagged it. Is that part of that initial project right there, what we did? Is that where you want to run that line, is where we marked it?
I don't recall seeing marks.
Flags, we put flags up there because you requested flags. So there's little blue flags in the tall grass now. So because when I spoke to your rep about that whole deal, when you come out of that transfer station, your magnetic field that you have coming out of there, we cannot locate the main there because there's too many interferences. So you're gonna have to back truck that out to locate that main because you have a big cluster of poles right outside that. And that's a 12-inch main.
Okay, yeah, that would have been for this project. I wasn't aware that you had marked that out.
We marked all the way down North Main Street and we marked down to Gore. I mean, not North Main, but North Blandford to Gore, and we took a right on Gore back onto North Blandford Road again.
Okay. So yeah, the underground would only be right outside of the substation. Like I said, about 300 feet in the vicinity of the substation. But yeah, all along the road to Gore, we'll be digging to place poles. I don't believe that the water main is in the route that the poles are on, so that shouldn't be an issue. The only location where they're going to have to, like you said, locate the line for their digging for this project is right around the substation.
No, if where I marked, if you're going where the existing poles are, you are right on top of a 12-inch water main, our main line coming in out of that plant.
Okay. I will have to take a look at that. The poles themselves can be shifted away or towards the road.
Our water line runs on the edge of the road. You need to shift farther off the road.
Okay. That will, yep, yeah, we'll construct it such as a way that it stays away from the water main.
All right, now I'm a little worried. So McCarthy, if you could just, as you proceed forward, because we've gone into these issues before where, you know, lines get broken and whatnot, if you could just be sure that you do communicate with the water department as well as the highway superintendent as well. And I would say if you're going to be hiring detail, communicate with the police chief and just be sure that everyone's on the same page as you proceed forward with that project, if and when approved.
Yes, we can say that as a condition of this petition, that, you know, work would not proceed until it was cleared with the town, if that's acceptable.
The other question I have here is, because this is a petition for joint for the pole locations from NSTAR Electric Company, BBA, Eversource Energy, and Verizon, right?
That's right.
In this agreement, you want the select board to sign, it says the Western Massachusetts Electric Company. Is that, I'm assuming that's the same,
Unacceptable.
or is that different?
That's the same company. Western Mass Electric is the old name for NSTAR in the territory that Eversource covers in Western Mass. I didn't create the legal document. I understand that that's confusing.
Wait, that doesn't void anything, right? That we're not, that wasn't an error. But
no,
okay.
that wouldn't be an error. That's probably copied and pasted from whoever at Eversource prepared that document for you. Yeah, I don't know why they haven't changed that, but Western Mass Electric, NSTAR, and Eversource is all referencing the same company.
Good, now, that's one project. Are we gonna approve these one at a time?
That's up to you, Mr. Chairman. So you have 3 plans in front of you to approve, to review and approve or disapprove tonight. Specifically, plan number 5022721, plan number 5023210, plan number 5023745. We do have a question from the town clerk's office.
If there is going to be a relocation involving the water line, if you approve of this tonight, we will need to have new documentation of the precise relocation of that particular pole so that we can appropriately record it. This is what the town clerk's office does. And we also need to know who's going to get the bill. Why is it not on Eversource letterhead? There are no certification pages for the town or Eversource or Verizon. So that's our issue. We really like to have a complete package. And I don't understand if Eversource prepared the paperwork. Usually when we get stuff from Eversource, Mr. McCarthy, it's absolutely an apple pie order and very, very complete.
I understand. I'm trying to, I don't know how Eversource provided the documents to you. I prepared the petition that I wanted to, I prepared my design, and I gave that to Eversource, and they would have prepared the petition documents and provided those to you. So I think maybe there was, I can't answer for that step of the process where they actually prepared those things and gave them to you. I was under the impression that they gave you what I prepared.
We only got from you, as I understand it. Is that right, Josh? Whatever he sent you is what we got. We have nothing really from Eversource.
Well, so Susan emailed me documents. Traditionally, we get sent documents through the mail.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have the documents here in front of us. They were emailed.
But there's no
and-
certification paperwork. We need a certification
I
paper
don't know what you mean.
that we sign.
It's right here. We have that.
Yeah, it's
You
on-
do?
yeah, it looks like this, it's different than what we're used to,
Okay.
okay?
And we
Each
need one,
document has.
so we have to make one for Eversource, for Verizon and town.
Right, because normally they do it for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Like
some of
this one
these,
says the town copy, and then the other
some of
one
these
says
are so owned
Eversource.
by Eversource, right?
Okay.
So I would, if you want, just, if you wanna do one at a time, or just take it up as a package, all three plans, if no one else has any questions on.
We'll discuss them as three. They're all on North Blanford and Gore Road.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, Jim. Right, James. One of these plans have two certifications. Is that? Do we sign one of those two, or you want them both signed? I think we couldn't tell here internally whether or not you wanted one overridden over the other one, or, you know what I mean?
yeah, it does.
Did you lose it?
Could you let me know which plan that is? I could take a look at it.
One is 5023745. There are two, I don't know what you're gonna call, order for joint or identical pole locations.
Yeah, order for joint
So-
pole relocation. 2-on-1.
It's like a 2-in-1. Did you want them both signed, or?
As far as I know, there should only be one for that. That's for most of the work on Gore Road.
Well, okay, I see, because one is Gore, one is on Frankfurt. I'm just do all of them.
Yeah.
All right,
Oh, you just made the motion.
the
you
motion's
seconded
been
it.
made and seconded. This is discussion now.
Yeah.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
So now you'll just sign those three lines
No, I
in
think-
front of the,
Yeah.
in front of the
They have
notary,
to sign first. They sign first.
and then
They sign first.
we can send this. I'm gonna
Just on one document, right?
So there's three.
Yeah,
I've got the
You
three.
got all three?
Yeah.
No, I've got the ones to be signed, right?
Right, that's what I was, that's what I was
They
alluding to.
sign.
So,
All right, under the signature, it says Utilities Subcommittee of the City of Blanford. That's the select board? Who's that?
We don't
Yeah,
have,
we're the subcommittee.
we don't have a subcommittee in the bylaws.
No,
Can we change that?
And
Yeah.
McCarthy, what they're talking about is these documents they sent over was more for like a city form of government where there's a council. Select board is not a council, they're the select board, they're the chief executive authority.
Oh, yeah.
What electric light department? It's, yeah,
I understand, yeah. I'll have to talk to,
so I don't know if they sign, I don't know if again, if it voids what you're trying to do, if it's reflecting the accurate information. you
there's
need to
something they
proceed
should be
forward.
fast to front of our legal counsel?
No.
No. All right, then, or if we sign it, it's done.
I have one question. You're gonna go under the road with this main line, you're gonna drill under North Blanford Road?
Yeah, right around the substation, yes.
Okay. There's a lot of ledge across the street and everything. And our water line is about 5 feet down. What happens if you hit ledge? What are you gonna do then?
Cool.
Blasting is one option. I don't
Yeah.
know exactly how they would get around that, but obviously you're not gonna be blasting on a water line. They might need to do some kind of, you know, that's not hand digging, but some manual labor to get the rock out of the way.
Yeah, I've got them right here.
Well, I'm kind of concerned about any of that kind of vibration and stuff that close to that pipe. If you guys break that pipe, I mean, call me gun shy, but we've already had 3 incidences of this right now, and you guys turn away and step back and threw your hands up and said it wasn't your problem. So I'm a little nervous as the water super about you guys drilling that close to a 12-inch water main.
Right.
I mean, the road's not that great as it is. I think it'd be a heck of a lot safer
Not tonight.
if it was excavated out, you find the main, and you went around that main that way. It's not like you're tearing into a new road, but you try drilling that. I mean, I've seen a company drill through a much larger pipe than that owned by Springfield Water, and I've seen what it does.
Right. I'm not sure, would it be acceptable if a condition of this, you know, agreement, this petition would be that they, you know, Eversource needs to provide a plan of action for how they'll approach the water main here? Is that, that, you know, that requires approval by you?
I'd like to have something showing how you're gonna go either over or under our water main. I'm not too excited about drilling, you know, the exact depth isn't noticed, and if you guys come in too low or too high, you're gonna pierce a 12-inch main. And like I said, the last couple of times, you guys have thrown your hand up on that and left all that financial responsibility for repair on us.
Yeah, that wouldn't be acceptable. I would agree completely with that, like that it should be their responsibility, Eversource's responsibility if,
Yeah, it should be, but like I said, we've already done this where they pierced through the line 3 times. They went right through our main and they ripped it out. They ripped the service line out and they ripped a smaller line right out of the ground.
Mm-hmm. So usually what I see when there are concerns like this is that there would be a condition like as part of the petition to say, you know, one of the conditions for procedure to, you know, for proceeding to work here would be to be signed off by the town water department, a plan of action, you know, regarding the water line and how it's going to be handled. So if that would be acceptable, then I don't think that Eversource would have any objection at all. They would not have any objection at all to that.
Yeah, I think you need to show us some sort of attack, you know, how you're gonna attack that situation. Like I said, it's not like it's even cemented. That's the main line coming into town. And like I said, the ground's not that deep there and you guys try to go out and drill. And if you're off a little bit, you're gonna shave that main and we got a huge problem.
City council.
Right now, we have no backup. Our plant is our only source of water. We have no reservoir right now. No holding tank.
If you don't want to proceed, if you don't want to agree to specifically the underground cable installation, that would be work order 5022721. Is that on? That's one of the 3 petitions that we're looking at. Is that correct?
You guys got that petition? 5022701.
721?
We have 745-210 and 721.
721's with the underground.
So I understand your concerns there and they're extremely valid. So you know, if you don't want to approve that particular piece and you you want Eversource to come back with a plan of action before approval and not just as a condition of proceeding, then that specific one, if you were to deny that one, you know, that would not give them the right for the underground work there. But the other two would cover just the pole work, which we're also petitioning for.
I definitely request something coming up to show how they're gonna cross that road, because you're way too
I
close.
think,
Much too far from the line.
I really think that you should get together with the engineers from Eversource,
Well, that's what he's just saying.
go out there and do what's gotta be done so this job can be done safely.
Yeah, exactly.
All right,
Now, just a question, is this one, all work gonna be done by Eversource, or is it gonna be petitioned out to a subcontractor?
The pole work would likely be going out to a subcontractor. I'm not sure about the underground work.
Does this work require bonding?
Bonding, sorry.
Well, I mean, you're doing thousands of dollars of work. I'm sure you're gonna be bonded if you're doing work on our roads or going under our roads.
I'm not actually sure what you mean. Do you mean like insurance?
Yeah, some sort of bond insurance, road bond of some kind.
I'm not actually aware of how they approach that. That's not anything I've ever dealt with, so I do not know. I'm assuming that they have insurance for the work they do.
under the circumstances, I don't wanna sign this or see anybody sign it and absolve them of responsibility if they do break that line.
Either break that line or do more damage to the road down there we don't want to cross.
That's right.
You use a bond on it.
There's a lot to this. This is more than just setting poles.
You're going through DigSafe, correct?
Yes, they always use DigSafe. Yep.
I don't know, McCarthy, can you understand the frustration on our end a little bit here with, I mean, it sounds like this isn't just your ordinary, you know, it sounds like there's much more to this, and on top of that, the paperwork just continues to, it's not organized. And it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of communication going on, and if they go forward and approve this and we've already had issues where we've accepted petitions for pole locations to the water superintendent's point where water lines were broken and we had to pay for them. So it's not clear what the plan is, and the communication also is not strong either. But I don't know what you want to do, or is there anything that you can help make this better and get us on a much stronger path forward so we can support the project?
I mean, yes, I mean, I'll have to talk with the people at Eversource who have, you know, that kind of decision making, because I'm the engineer of the project for the pole locations and the I can't tell you how Eversource will handle things from a legal standpoint, for example, for bonding and ensuring their work or what have you. I was really here tonight to answer questions about the purpose of the project, and any questions about, you know, what it might look like in the end or what have you. So yeah, I understand the frustration, and I'm sorry that I can't answer a lot of these questions. Clearly somebody else from Eversource is probably necessary to answer some of these.
I strongly feel that we should withhold signing this until they come back to us with a plan that will satisfy the water superintendent, the highway superintendent, and this board.
Yeah, if you're gonna dig into the roads, and near water lines,
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that big.
So until we get that, I don't think we should sign any of this.
Make a motion to table it until we get better documentation on what they're gonna do.
I second it.
What, just to, we'll vote on, it, we're gonna resend it and take it.
Resend it on the table, that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Got a second?
All right.
Yeah, second. I'm sorry, Mr. McCarthy, but we definitely need to be a little clearer on what's gonna happen here.
Yeah, I understand. It's, it happens. Yes.
All right, all those in favor of that motion? Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Mr. McCarthy?
Yeah.
This is a little on a personal note. Do you know who's in charge of, they were cutting trees down in February, along the property lines on Chester Road? And they were supposed to remove the trees, and they're still there. I think Northern had the project. Is there some way you can get us a number to call so we can get those trees cleared from the road before snow flies?
I can send some emails. I don't know who, that's not a project that I was working on, so I don't know really anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can let them know that there's some tree concerns. What road is it on?
Chester Road.
Dave?
Custer?
Chester.
Chester, okay.
James, this is Dave, Highway Superintendent. Have you been out on Gore Road lately? Were you gonna put those poles in?
The last time I was out there was maybe 2 or 3 months ago.
Did you see any skylight through there at all or not?
Did I see what?
The skylight, sun? Because you're gonna run those poles up through there, and that place is pretty, notorious for, falling trees across wires. Are your poles gonna be able to hold those trees coming up?
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason for the petition, because we would need additional, we want to shorten the distance between the poles. The new poles that were going in would be, would be more robust than what's there now. And the construction on Gore Road is what they call a spacer cable or Hendrix, which is, it has a strong messenger above the conductors that are actually carrying current, and that, will absorb limbs that strike it, and it's more resilient to tree strikes, and it's often used for that purpose for roads like that. And also Eversource would likely need to do a little bit of tree trimming along Gore.
They're doing that right now, doing some tree trimming, but it's pretty obvious, they're only going to do the side where the wire is on, they should do both sides of it.
The one with all of
Yep.
There's some probably huge trees up there that, once you remove some trees from one side, it gives the other ones that opportunity to fall over. And, that's one of a major roads up through. It wouldn't take much for all those trees to come down and just lay it on your wires, and then it's all shut down for a day or so.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, that's always a concern in any area that's forested like this. All I could say is that it's with the new construction that we're proposing, it would be much less likely to come down. And also by bringing the main circuit out of the right of way that's back there, it helps. Obviously it's a lot more accessible when there are issues for them to repair it.
All right, we'll see what happens.
Any more? Well, I guess we'll move on to the notice of filing of.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
And
Notice of filing public hearing or procedural conference. Petition of N-Star Electric doing business as Eversource for approval of deferral of major storm threshold amounts. I think if we read this is all we can do. There's no vote on it.
No, this is just communication. Let you guys know that this hearing is taking place, yeah. Like every select board, when these things come across my table, I want to make sure
Yeah.
you guys are aware.
Just so everybody heard that we're looking at it. That's all.
The next item we have here on your agenda, guys, is your the SCADA design work. One of the members here for Wright Pierce joined us, as well as our water super, to answer any questions you might have on this particular project.
What number is that?
We're in action item
4D.
4D.
Number up?
Whether up or dogs. 4D.
This one here?
The SCADA project.
This is Pierce.
Yeah, Wright Pierce.
Oh, okay.
So this involves the SCADA upgrade work at the water plant. This is that project where the select board is working collaboratively with our enterprise and trying to fund the upgrades necessary at the water plant. We secured the funds, we went through a procurement process, awarded the contract to Wright and Pierce, it was approved. Then we were going back and forth trying to draft an appropriate contract to bring in front of you tonight for final approval and signatures. The Water Commission, I guess, met already, reviewed it, and are we to go? We're good to go.
Looks good, yeah.
And then the project manager is here. Again, if you have any particular technical questions regarding the project.
And I ask questions about something I don't know what it's about.
Oh, wait. Go ahead, this is your show.
Just throw it out there.
Okay, first of all, Josh, thank you for the invitation. Gordon, thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to speak before the Board of Selectmen this evening. So thank you. My name is James Papadimitra. I'm a senior project manager, senior instrumentation and controls engineer with Wright Pierce, based out of, not based out of Westfield, but our office, a local office right here in Westfield. So as part of a letter that was received by the water department, as you know, for, I believe, a violation or something or a notice. They brought us in and we performed an assessment.
Right.
From that assessment, we put together, which was essentially anywhere between a 1% and a 15% design document, okay? From that, you can basically come up with a generalized scope and that address the client's goals and objectives. And essentially at the facility, there's no automated control whatsoever. That was originally designed there. Just about, and please correct me if I misspeak, that there is monitoring of various equipment. There's monitoring of chlorine, pH.
Because no automation. There's some monitoring of your levels going out and what your dosing is going out, but other than that,
It's chlorine, pH,
It's
Turbidity.
always been.
yeah.
and
Catch can.
that's why we have a lot of the problems we have now.
Yep.
Is because there is no automation. And like you said, you get a storm change or something like that or whatever. I mean, if he's not there, you have no way to catch it.
That's your operator, Bernie St. Martin.
Right,
correct?
so because, his hours limited, we're not a 24-hour facility, so you just go to violate.
Yeah.
So we did everything there. We came back with that project. We're in the process of doing that. We got submitted with a consent by DEP. On top of that, we had to go back and do an entire system, what do they call it? It's a long day.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
The
So
second-
essentially, when we did the assessment, we found a lot of things that were, I don't want to say wrong, but as time marched on from the original design, there are certain components of your SCADA system, which stands for supervisory control and data acquisition, but there's no control element, okay? It's just monitoring and alarming, and that's all you have. And as we did our investigation of the SCADA system, it turned out that the programmable logic controller, the thing that takes in all the physical signals and IO and alarms, is now end of life by the manufacturer, Allen Bradley.
December.
Yeah, so it was
December
December 20th, December 20th of 2020. So that product is no longer available directly from the manufacturer. You can buy a used product on the internet, but you're taking a, pardon the expression, it's a crapshoot.
Yeah, it's used for a reason.
Right? Thank you, good wisdom. So we made recommendation. We also found out too that the operating system of the computer, which was Windows 7 Professional, is also no longer supported. I think it was as of January of this year.
Yeah.
I think something to that effect. And we found a number of other things. It was very valuable that we met with Gordon and Bernie St. Martin on site, and they conveyed all their pain points to us. And essentially, Bernie has to go there, select the flow through his raw water pumps and adjust the speed, look at the flow, and try to balance the number and the valve positions for the sand filters.
Right.
Okay. And I know Bernie said, oh, if I can keep it at this level, I would get really effective sand, filtering out of this. Problem is that doesn't happen because there's a clear well, right? After that's treated and filtered, chemical dosed, which is all again manual. That chemical dosing is all manual. After it's dosed, it goes out to the clear well, correct?
Yep, and it goes into this town.
Right. So what happens if the clear well now, the demand, basically the clear well is just a mini storage, if you will,
Yeah.
final treatment and storage before the demand is taken by the town. So as you know, water usage is not a constant. So if Bernie sets the flow in the morning, he's going to really need to come back late in the afternoon to drop the flow. Otherwise you can get clear well overflows, which
is a violation.
Has occurred.
Another violation.
Okay. So what we did was we picked, and we realized they're, small town, small community, budgetary constraints. We picked the key points to give automation to the water treatment plant that allows for flow pacing and level control through the filters, automatic dosing of the chemicals to maintain your compliance, and level control out at the clear well to avoid those. So if we see we're getting a high level out at, or if we're approaching a high level out at the clear well, we can now back down flow of the raw water pumps feeding the filters.
Right, which saves us money in chemicals, money in electricity, saves us water, save all the way around.
Yeah.
On top of it, going through the whole thing, we found that our soda ash system, you can't get it anymore. That's been gone out of date for a while now. So we have 3 pumps. We only use one. But we have 2 because one crapped the bed about 5 months ago. And so we're down to 2 now. You can't get a new one because they don't make those anymore. And it's a DC system. That's and that whole system right there is you can't get anything for it anymore.
Now, is this system going to handle, say we have a major fire here in the center of town?
It should ramp up automatically.
That was because we can empty that clear well on a fire with no.
Oh,
fire.
yeah. It should ramp up what happens is like, so say we have a small break or something like that, that change, as well as slow down, it should ramp up to a certain point.
Right.
And allow us to basically, the water may not be pretty coming out of it, but you shouldn't run out. But we'll get it.
Yeah, I think if I could add to that, I think to address that particular issue, we would look at the level, let's say we had a rapid level of drop. You know, we could do a rate of change, you know, in our control system, we could look at rate of changes at various levels to say, okay, we need to bring another filter online. And that could happen with the automated valving that we're proposing, that could happen automatically. Okay, we'd have to certainly work with Gordon and Bernie as to what, you know, during the number in our design, we call for a number of different workshops to work with the plant personnel in order to make sure we're delivering the design that's going to meet their needs, not just rubber stamp and shove something down their throat that's not going to work for them.
So as right now, we're running 4 filters all the time. We could run 2 filters, keep one as full, but as a backup and alternate them so they get used. It's gonna prolong our filter life. Like I said, so now, you know, next year we're gonna do filter 4, so we can just run filter 4 all the time and keep the other ones off. So we're gonna get longer runs, better filters. You know, they're gonna last a lot longer. So, upon doing the consent order, one thing we're looking at too is, for fire suppression is putting another tank up, some sort of a tank, so we have some water for like North Street and stuff like that, because right now, you know, we saw what happened, we had no water in the center of town for 14 hours. So
what is the problem with the tank that's up there now?
that air, a sponge has less holes in it, and the base has a big crack in the bottom of it. It's junk, which is something we might want to look at putting that out to bid for scrap, because with steel being high,
Yeah.
maybe a way to make a couple
Get it out of there,
dollars
Make room for another one.
and a couple dollars coming back to us.
And forward thinking.
Yeah.
We would make sure that our design is capable of being expanded upon or added to for this tank site. So we can look at either cellular communication from the tank site and its localized controls and alarming, right? And actual level value. Okay, and that would get telemetered either through cellular or radio back to the central SCADA site, where even with remote access and tablets or cell phones, the guys can access that SCADA system. I mean, we would certainly look to do that. The other thing you're going to do is with this automated control, it's going to keep you within compliance, minimize electrical and chemical usage, but also to allow you to operate with alarms that are not nuisance alarms or just general alarms. You'll have alarm specifics that we put in, okay, that'll dial out on your cell phone. And with that, you could make more, you know, either Bernie or Gordon could make more intelligent decisions to say, all right, I know that pressure switch is a little iffy. I can, you know, just acknowledge it and I'll come in tomorrow, rather than coming through a more critical alarm that requires immediate attention. So you'll be able to make value judgments based on the critical nature of your alarm, which is what I don't believe
Right.
you have that capability.
No. Some of the other things too is even on our turb meters and our chlorine readers, or I think our chlorine meter is still okay, but our turb meters, they don't make them anymore. They stopped making those like 3 years ago. So
Village of Antiques.
everything is out of date. It's crazy.
Well, that's
That's in
what's
there
starting
too.
to scare me, because I'm thinking now, we all know the way technology
Yeah.
moves. You know, today you have one thing, tomorrow you got something better. I'm wondering about the longevity of what we're doing.
Mhm.
And how do we keep up with the technology that as it advances, or is this something that once it's set up, we can expand upon? Or is it something that once it's set up and the new technology comes in, we're stuck with another bill?
Half the problem is it should have never been a manual plant in the first place.
Mhm.
They went cheap in the beginning. And now we gotta pay for it. If it was just, I think we looked at half of it. I think a good third of the budget, you know, almost half the budget is just on wiring for automation. Once it's wired for automation and you have the valves and everything else in there, you just gotta worry about your, keeping your SCADA system upgraded and stuff like that. But the problem is a lot of it is we don't have any automated valves. We don't have anything automated, period. Everything is
Manual.
Everything's manual.
Yeah.
So
No,
all that has
I
to be.
understand that. And.
I want to
you know,
address your issue, your direct question, if I can jump in on
Yeah,
this.
go ahead.
So you ask about, are we gonna get another bill 5, 10 years down the line? Nothing lasts forever, as you know that. You have what's that?
I plan to.
Good, okay. Well, I should say, nothing stays the same and nothing lasts forever, but specific components of SCADA systems have an average life cycle. Okay, so like, for example, PLCs. The PLC that's in there is at least over 15. I think it's over 15. When did they do the upgrade?
04.
In 04. But that PLC was in existence many years before 04. So let's just say it was 2000. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't do well. Here we are, 2021. It's got a 20-year life cycle.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm not arguing. I
No.
I
So what
understand the upgrades.
Yeah. What's your
I'm
name, by the
just
way?
Wondering,
Yeah.
as we move forward, now you're talking putting in wiring and a computerized system and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm wondering if the system that you're putting in is going to be like, okay, this computer system is obsolete now. We just disconnect the wires, we're able to put in the new system. I'm just curious.
I feel that what they're doing now, this is a whole pile of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Where as we go down the line, you have to replace this piece. And then further on, this piece. It's not gonna happen again all at once.
No, I
that's true.
understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, like,
That's
cell
not-
phones now, every time I get a new cell phone, I got a different picture.
No, it's not like that. It's not like you have to stay on the edge of technology, the
Okay.
bleeding edge of technology. There's nothing like that pushing you towards new components.
Yeah.
What it basically is the availability of first of all, the marketing need, and then the availability of the components within that device.
Yeah.
All right, now I know a number of different manufacturers have obsoleted because the memory chip that goes in there is no longer manufactured, or the controller for the communications chip inside that controller is no longer manufactured. So they don't support it and they move you to a new product. The product that's going in there is a new product that will last 15 to 20 years. Okay, that PLC. And we're putting to minimize on the wiring, we're doing what they call a remote IO cabinet. So instead of running the wires, let's say I'm the brains of the outfit, right? And all the instruments are out there in the hallway. Well, instead of running a million wires out there, I'm going to run one communication, or actually two communication wires out to another device that's out there that's going to take all the physical wires in. So it's a lot cheaper. I'm saving on the electrical costs to do that. The instruments have a life cycle. The computers, your biggest issue and life cycle issue that you're going to run into is your actual computer. Because the life cycle of those computers, right, has to be matched with two things. Has to be matched with the SCADA software and the operating system. Okay, so let me explain. So now Windows 7 is no longer supported. So we have to get a new operating system, because if it crashes, what do? Right, you need to support your system. So we have to upgrade to Windows 10. Right, that's their latest software. Operating system for the computer. Thankfully, the computer you have there can take Windows 10. We're upgrading the memory, which is inexpensive. We may upgrade the network interface card so that computer can still be reused. But now that I've updated the operating system, now I have to update your SCADA software, because your SCADA software doesn't where it doesn't operate on Windows 10. So we have to go from your factory talk SCADA software, because it's now become obsolete, because I just upgraded to Windows 10. It doesn't work on it anymore. It's just a lot of this stuff is interwoven, so the software now has to get upgraded to the version 11 that you have, or that you'll need to get. Those life cycles, normally the SCADA software, you enter into what they call a maintenance contract. So every year or once or twice a year, if you pay in the maintenance contract, it allows technical support. And during that support period, you get upgrades. Okay, it's a part of normal maintenance of your SCADA system. Okay, the remote IO unit, that separate or distant control panel that I'm putting in there, that's going to be the absolute latest and greatest. Okay, so that when the the existing CPU 15 years from now, right, goes and becomes obsolete, then I could obsolete a new one, but put it in a different location. So I'm already building in, let's call it obsolescence awareness, okay? So that it would be inexpensive to upgrade, or less expensive to upgrade the system. And it'll be expandable at the plant. So now, right now, to keep the costs down, we were directed to add the automated valves. Okay, to add level instrumentation on the filters, and level at the clear well, and I think one flow meter we're going to be at. And so that is approximately $49,000-$50,000 worth of instruments. That'll be the latest.
There's turbines in there too, I think.
Yeah, I don't know on that one, but then in phase two, the phase two instruments was the turbidity meters. Now, and I want to address that because, and then especially what you just said about the soda ash.
Yeah.
Right, so, and which I wasn't aware of at the time. So right now, our estimate for, I think the construction cost was approximately 180, but remember that was per a 1 to 15% design. So we use the AACE standardization method for cost estimating these types of systems. So that 180, I can go as low as minus 15 to 30% on the low side, and up to plus 20 or 50% on the high side.
Okay.
All right, so the point is, if we budgeted for a certain amount and we only use, let's say we use like $30,000 less than that, well, guess what? We can get the turbidity meters. Right?
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that we're going to definitely be looking at for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, the alarming system that we want to put in is one that if you ever expand on additional controls, works great with, let's say, there's also risk of these systems. And you have to balance that with cost benefit analysis, and you could put redundant SCADA computers that if one fails, a secondary computer automatically takes over. Well, the alarming systems of yesteryear, like Win 911, don't work well anymore with redundant servers. That's why we're recommending TopView software, which works excellently with redundant servers. So if Gordon says, hey, look, we had lightning strikes and it took out the PC, we're gonna make recommendations to put surge suppression on your computers and your PLC. But if that computer goes down, what happens? You don't get alarms, but we are going to keep the backup RACO, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So you will get an alarm system out, but if that happens, you may consider at a future time to say, okay, I want to add a redundant server. So that if the one fails, it goes back. Your alarming system will already be set up for that. So.
Interesting.
Well, you understand this now, Dee?
Yeah, it's right over here.
Just to let you guys know that, again, so this contract you'll approve tonight
It's for the design.
is the design phase to get us to the construction phase,
Right.
and the total is $83,200.
Yeah. Well, I saw a figure in here when I was looking around somewhere with a even $1 million with our.
No.
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 Like I said, right now too,
Right there, 14.1.
on the second part, we're doing with the consent order with Mary's
Is that
working on
insurance?
for the distribution. He's also applied for 3 or 4 grants with us.
2.1. Designer shows expense obtain professional liability insurance policy.
All right.
Jim, what
Yeah,
was
yeah,
that?
Yes, it does say it on the
Yeah,
ballot.
well, I thought that was insurance. You gave me a heart attack.
What was the,
Yeah.
what were those grants that Marius was applying for, the SS?
Yeah, Marius, who's our water lead, water engineer in
Yeah.
Western Mass, and he works in Connecticut as well. He was looking at SRF and one other one.
He's looking at 3 or 4.
Yeah, yeah. So he's looking to try to get help out with the funding on that. I don't know if, we'd have to talk to him, but
Yeah.
I don't know if he's looking for a grant. We may not be able to get a grant, but certainly low interest loan to help offset. And I know you mentioned you had already procured funding.
Well, so financing this project's not a problem, definitely is a priority, and there are funding sources to cover this.
Yes.
Well,
Well, what
I don't want to borrow for this particular project. We have the funds.
Well, that's terrific, yeah.
But just wanna, this has been over a year in the making to get to this part.
Yeah.
Just,
Well, I think,
I wanna get the ball rolling.
I think at this point, I would make a motion to accept this contract agreement and get this ball rolling.
Second. You made the motion, right?
Hmm?
You make the motion?
I made the
All
motion.
right, I seconded it. And it's got a timeline, so I'm happy.
Any discussion?
No discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now you can go to work.
Do you have that, do you have the original contract?
Yeah, Tom has all the originals.
He has all the original.
But
I got all the
I have a question here. Who is is it gonna be the water department or the selectmen? That's in-
They'll be working with the water department.
So
So
they
they-
would be the awarding authority.
No, so the way it's designed currently, well,
He's talking about signing, Josh.
no, you sign it.
That
I
he's
sign
asking
it?
about signing,
Right.
yeah. Same question I asked.
Okay,
Hey, you wanted to be chair.
no, not me.
Yeah, so we meet and go over everything and we bring it to you guys, kind of like we're doing now, because you guys are the
Yeah,
signing authority.
so, and we had this conversation with council, so all town contracts,
There's only one place to sign.
Oh, I'm glad you did it.
Sounds like the space bar is stuck.
all town contracts
No,
come
it's not
to
wrong.
the select board for final approval. The select board, you're more of an accountability board, but the due diligence stays with the departments.
You spelled it right.
Departments bring forward the result of the due diligence, and we
Yeah.
just make sure that all laws and rules are complied with, and things are good, and that appropriation's been secured, that we're not funding anything that's not, we're not approving anything that there's no appropriation for, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I follow.
So it's just, we're an accountability board to make sure that all your dots are in the right place.
I'm the last person you want to make accountable for anything.
Oh, no, not yet.
Not yet.
So
Still good.
yeah, just sign that, you want me to,
I signed it.
you want me to email it to you?
Yes, you could scan it and email it or
Okay.
send us a copy, however you normally would do it is fine.
Yeah.
I think everyone, the town council already signed it to approval, you guys
Yeah.
already,
Right.
I can make it, I can scan it and email it to you.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. At your convenience.
Cool. Let's get rocking.
All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, much appreciated and have a
Thank
terrific
you.
terrific evening.
That was
Right.
very a learning experience.
The reason why he's been able to get as in detail as he was, because the water department and them have been working really hard and doing a preliminary assessment.
Yeah.
That's why I say this has been a year in the making to really understand what's going on. So
I think it's been more than that.
Somebody, Gordon was.
More than that.
It's been more than a year.
Wasn't hanging around.
Gordon
He
was-
actually doing something.
And he wasn't here shooting from the hip either.
Well, it's like one of the big problems we had with the plan was like take filters. Nobody ever did anything to it. Nobody did nothing in the plan. That's the problem we're having. Like, when when somebody left and, and I moved into the position there, you know, as the chair there, I got things going there like 3 years ago. And that's when we started. We had to clean 2 filters. The town does not realize that when everything got dumped in my lap, those filters were only putting out 9 gallons a minute. We almost ran out of water. They put out over 90 gallons a minute each.
Yeah, well, you inherited a dynasty over there.
Oh my God.
Dinosaur? Is that what you meant?
And that too. But I'll tell you this, if $25 million is cheap, I want your water.
That ain't 25 million. This will be done for.
The plant, the original.
No, that wasn't the plan. And let me tell you right now, if I was on there when they were doing that, there'd be a lot of things that would have been different. No need for 2 bathrooms. That domestic water system is extremely oversized and expensive to maintain. When it breaks, it's not cheap. That whole chemical system in there for the soda ash was antiquated when they put in. When that plant went online, it was out of date.
They gave us a used Cadillac.
Oh,
Pretty much. They put a new paint job on a used Cadillac. They charge you prime old money. They didn't insulate the building. The roof's not insulated. So there's another thing too. We looked into that, but the thing is, cost effectiveness to do it,
you can't do that spray stuff either.
There's no alarms for that. If he's in there screwing around with a chlorine and something breaks, there's no alarms to alert us that
Exactly.
he's in trouble.
There's nothing there. There's no emergency buttons to hit. There's nothing. So we're working with them now too to try to get rid of ozone, because ozone can kill you too. It's been off for a while and the system's old and antiquated. That's been nothing but a money pit. So, but right now we're to the point now, that's what it is. It just needs
Progress.
progress. It doesn't work right.
Good job.
So,
All right.
Thank you, Bert.
Thank you very much.
This next item.
4E. Oh, sorry.
4E.
4E. I thought you were starting.
Review and take action between the town and Eric Kinshirf, CPA for FY 22 municipal accounting services. So even I made mistakes. I dropped the ball on this one for some reason. I thought we already had reviewed and approved this contract.
I thought we did. but we never
No,
signed it.
you know what you're talking
Right.
about when I appointed, because all department supervisors get appointed at the end of June. So that's what you saw was just appointment papers.
But I was under the impression that we did this until Eric Kinshirf 2 months ago says, hey, are you guys gonna sign the contract? And I'm like, where did you leave off? And then I backtracked a little bit and realized I never even brought it in front of me. But
Well,
nevertheless,
Yeah, I talked to him. Okay.
Tommy right now.
uh, this Eric, he's been doing a good job for us right along.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't see why we ought to change it at this point, so I move we approve this contract with Eric Kinshirf. Well, Kinshirf, I'll get it, be patient.
CPA.
CPA,
There you go. I second.
any discussion?
so the difference between this contract and our previous contract, before we were contracted directly with PVPC. And PVPC was kind of like the broker.
Yeah.
Facilitating the accounting service. Right, so this contract here, we're contracted directly with CPA.
Very good.
We're saving about $1,400.
That's wonderful.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved.
Make sure you sign it in the original. This
Tom,
other
that's the original.
action item, review and take action on proposed amendments to our RG contract. This you did review, approve. Nevertheless, Harold, who's the principal assessor at RRG, came back with some amendments to the scope, which he went over with the chair of the assessors already. And Steve, as reported that he was okay with the change.
Okay.
But you can see it there.
Yeah, right here, you'll see where it says original bullet,
Yeah, and
replacement bullet. So
Yeah.
that's the original was, you know, the original contract, and then he wants to replace it with what you see as replacement bullet. Um,
Well, I guess it's in order to make a motion that we accept this contract with Regional Resource Group.
Yeah, with the replacement bullet. Then I make the motion, or you second it, or?
I'll second it.
Okay,
He made the motion, you second it,
all right.
Okay,
and
fine.
then discussion.
Any, Mary?
Question from Mary.
Yeah, I don't understand why they want to do a comprehensive townwide property data review each year preceding a full revow. As I understand it, we do a third of the town every year.
That's why it's a 3-year
It's
contract.
a 3-year thing.
Yeah,
So what is this? I guess, what?
They're
what are
gonna
we
do
doing
it,
extra?
review the data as I understand it. And then when the 3-year time is up, they'll have all their ammunition lined up to shoot at us with.
The original bullet reads, conduct inspections of not less than 100 properties, and the replacement would be comprehensive townwide property data review. And you'll continue to read there. That's the strategy they want to undergo. This contract amendment, just to let you guys know that this is the 3rd year of the 3-year contract. The Board of Assessors, this current fiscal year, will be doing a rebid, which they can obviously put in a proposal for another 3-year term. But nevertheless, what they want to do in this, our existing 3-year contract that ends this year, is make an amendment to the scope, the practice of how they conduct inspections or come up with their assessments.
but it's still gonna be a 3-year assessment process,
It says come to be carried out once every 5 years.
5 years. Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Is this gonna cost us any more money?
No, this is our contract dollar amount. You'll see in the 2nd or 3rd page, depending on what package you have. You'll see the columns, fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21, fiscal year 22. This is what they bidded 3 years ago. So fiscal year 22 is 48,880.
Okay,
So that's it.
yeah.
That's
we
the
got that.
flat, yeah.
Okay.
So we knew 3 years ago what
Yeah.
this year's, but you know, just for budgeting purposes, it helps us better plan for how we prioritize funding. But nevertheless, this year we'll be going through the bidding once again, which they'll have to submit their proposals for another 3 years. And that's all I have for action items for you guys.
With that,
No, we got putting,
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. This is.
now, did we approve this?
So this is what I'm calling a late file order. I just got this on my desk today from the gentleman that owns Thomas Fielding. Pudding Hill Farm LLC. I guess the CCC did not like the name micro business. They want it in its place marijuana cultivator. So that whereas paragraph that you read under the amendment, actually, if you follow that, you'll see the original writing where it says marijuana micro business. So we want to replace that with marijuana cultivator. So that's the amendment to the original agreed upon post community agreement.
I'm a little confused. Is this gonna be a full-time cultivation or?
They submitted a
Because they-
one-pager proposal.
Yeah,
It's just that when they submitted their, you know, their application to the
Yeah.
CCC to go through the process.
Mm-hmm.
How it read was the company intends to utilize the property located at 1 Julius Hall Road for the purposes of operating as a marijuana micro business.
Yeah.
And the CCC came back and said, yeah, we don't like the word marijuana micro business. We want marijuana cultivator. So it's just replacing the name of that.
All right.
The actual logistics of the
Just
business,
words.
that's a conversation with them. I don't know what their proposals are. They still have to go to the planning board, do the permitting review.
Yeah.
They still have to do all of that. But this is the amendment to what the select board negotiated earlier on to
Okay,
the host community agreement,
okay.
which the CCC requires before they give the go-ahead with their projects.
So we have to vote on this?
Any changes to the original agreement yet?
Yeah.
Because we gotta sign it too. You even get to sign it.
You guys
I do.
decided this time.
I don't see where it says TJ on it. All
It's
right.
right there. It
Yeah.
says,
So I move to accept the name change from,
Or make the,
how do you want
to accept the amendment as presented.
it? All right. I make a motion to, accept the amendment as presented.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
Aye.
so you got the signed copy. Kara would be proud of us.
And don't forget to do the approval of your minutes.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to.
Mayor Chief.
The which?
They didn't do the minutes approval.
No, they have 6A as well, review the expense report.
I can't hear you.
All depart, review the 6A. If you want to continue going, so you don't have to make a motion to move, do 6A, and then we can go to the top of the agenda and do the minutes.
You know, we're so new into the year, this is a waste of time.
Yeah, full transparency though, it's there, but however you want to run your meeting. You
Well-
can review it, you can skip it.
We went over it last week. So I would think it could wait for the next 2 weeks and we'll go over it again.
The next 2 weeks, you'll have a fresh one in front of you.
Well, we'll go over that. then.
Now,
That's how I feel.
I agree. We're too fresh in the year right now.
Making
Yeah.
a motion to table?
Yeah.
I don't think you have to. I mean, it's
Yeah.
there, you looked at it. Good job.
All
Just
right.
go forward.
There's a truck out there on the baseball field.
No, he's on the road.
No, he just went on, he just got
Oh,
back
he was
on it.
turning around maybe? I hope he's not dropping off another stump there.
Okay, then. 2A,
Hey, Bobby, you want to run out and get his license number for me?
so Tom, back up to 2A. Examination of the July 19th meeting minutes.
Okay.
And Josh, these meeting minutes that they're waiting to approve right now, they have to be signed by finance as well, but we'll just deal with that at another time, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I didn't hear that.
No, she was just, the question you had about finance committee reviewing earlier on. She was just asking about that.
remember I said because they need to sign it, but they're not here tonight, so we'll get you to sign it and then we'll get them at their next meeting to sign.
I only got one question. Who is C. Smellier?
Did I spell it wrong? Kathy
Smelser.
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 She's on the finance.
committee.
Oh, okay. I saw the C and I said, geez, that can't be Latender. Mary, stop it.
You mean Kara Smelser?
How does the ball game go?
They go away. Notification.
Instagram.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow him, sure. Sounds like a good idea to me. How about you?
I move to accept the meetings as written,
What date?
July 19th.
Okay, second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Now,
Do be.
I would, in reading it, I would like to make a motion to accept the minutes of August 2nd.
Second.
Discussion,
That's for me.
all in favor?
Aye.
I guess we're going, huh?
Yeah. What do you got, Josh?
Oh, just I had something that's top of my head.
Not there now.
It's gone.
Yeah, me too. I used to have hair, but
You're gonna call it meeting adjourned at,
Well, wait a minute. I want
oh,
to,
sorry.
at some point, we're gonna have to do something because this is a safety thing. And I don't know, you
well,
know,
Mark, M&M's is a little more complete than the other one.
well, he's a contract and his is what, time and stock?
Well, it's a proposal. If you sign it, it's a contract. That's how I always
No, we
do.
don't, we have town contracts,
See,
they're just proposals, right? And I was just,
the only thing that concerns me is that, you know, the way this is written, if there's cost overruns, the town picks up the tab. The other one is it's cut and dry. If there's overruns, he has to pick up the tab. And the way we've
What
been going-
contracts
go
are
ahead.
you talking about,
This
TJ?
is for
The,
storm
for
work,
the road repairs.
storm work.
The stuff,
Burkill Road.
the stuff that Waldron brought in last week?
Pardon?
The
Yeah.
quotes that, he's
We
been
have-
he's been asked by you guys to do new quotes. Has he given you those?
That's what he's got, and they're the same thing.
They're the same folks.
Oh, sorry, all right.
So.
Did they not understand what you were looking for?
Well, we were looking for him to be more specific.
Yeah. But it didn't come.
Didn't happen.
No. But my concern now is that we're coming into the hurricane season now. We've been in it for about a month and we've had torrential rains. And, you know, I just don't want to see the roads erode any longer than what they have. You know, the way I feel, give one road to one guy, the other road to the other guy and be done with it.
well, he said repairs of Chester Road are estimated 5 to 7 days
Yeah,
at 1,800. Worst case scenario, 7 days, 1,800 times 7. $12,600. What was this one?
I think he found that one there. Yeah. Take a peek. Birch Hill Road, 5,500.
Oh. Well, okay, so no. it's
Yeah, and then that's for both roads.
So 15,500 plus 5,500, or that's total, that's total,
No, I think you're right. I think that's
the total, or
that's the Birch Hill Road and that's the Chester Road.
you're looking at $2,100.
101,000.
21,000,
And there
12,600
for Birch Hill.
for Birch Hill and Chester Road. Because he's saying $1,800 per day. That includes mini excavators, gear dump trucks, as well as service trucks. The daily rate does not include the cost for any material necessary for traffic control measures. Would you elect to? I mean, I guess it warrants further discussion, but
I would think so,
sounds like.
but I would like to see us, get moving on it.
What are you saying?
So this proposal here, and I have to connect with Waldron and learn more about what you guys got going on, but nevertheless, he's charging $1,800 per day, 5 to 7 days. So 7 days, let's say worst case scenario.
Is that, and that's for both roads?
Both roads,
That's 10,000 something. huh?
12,000.
$12,600
Alright.
total. The repairs necessary at Birch Hill, oh, okay. The repairs necessary for Birch Hill are estimated 2 to 3 days. And then Chester is 5 to 7 days.
Whose is that?
That's M&M.
For a total,
So we're looking at 18,000 for both roads, worst case scenario.
from M&M.
But
And
that's not including though, he says here, what they say, material and detail work. That, any traffic control measures that you might need.
And what was Cooper's?
And Cooper was 5,500 for Birch Hill Road and 15,500 for Chester Road.
So M&M's much favorable, but to your point about cost overruns.
That's, and that's something that we absorb. You know, I don't know, I know that, like,
I'll work with, can I work with Walter on this? You guys are-
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
work with Walter on this, but I see what's going on. Use material will be found in this road, protect. road. So it is.
He's
This is
gonna
pretty
use the,
competitive, though, I gotta say.
what, the way I understand it, the way that was written, is he's gonna use that material there, that's already there
Yeah, he's gonna try to.
to
reclaim
back it up against the road and then bring in more riprap to, make the ditch. Because that ditch is way too narrow. You know, for the amount of water.
This was a
that's
close
out there,
bit.
Especially
No,
since
that,
they
that
did
was
that.
all that was, it's all the space that was given when they widened the road out.
Yeah, but then, of course, when they did that timbering further up, you know, that added a lot of,
But see, they didn't cut the bank at all when they widened the road to make the ditch any wider.
yeah. So they gotta cut the bank wider now.
Yeah, so you can't, if you're gonna do that, you can't do it for that kind of money.
Well, for 15,000, I don't know.
No, I know damn well you can't,
Well,
because if you go in there and cut the bank, you're gonna take away everything that's there now. And then it's all gonna be replaced.
I don't know, I'm just,
I'll work with Walter on it,
Yeah,
figure it out.
talk with
The
Dave.
price
on it.
is pretty close though, I gotta say, so I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
pretty
how much
close.
it's gonna be in a ballpark, what we need to do.
Yeah,
So they're going back again?
well,
We're
we're
gonna
gonna,
talk with Dave, the highway superintendent, about it.
yeah. Geez, Kara would be proud of us. We went over the 8 o'clock mark.
Yeah, well, are we all set now? Meeting adjourned at 8:10.
Bang the gavel, make it official.
Where's all the?
Yeah.
I look at some place.